Hello everyone, this is Varun from Enroute IAS and today we will be discussing the books that need to be studied for clearing UPSC Prelims. Before going into the subjects or the books, what I would advise you is that just pause the video, take up the syllabus and see that what all subjects are there which make up the prelims question paper. After you have done that, then you can start the video once again. Now I hope that you must have read the syllabus and you must be acquainted with the kind of subjects that make up the prelims. So let us directly come to the subjects. The first subject and an important subject is polity. So around every year, around 10 to 12 questions are asked from polity. So this is a very important part of prelims. The second subject is basically made up of two parts. One is history and other is culture. But these two parts are so interconnected that they are usually taken together. And even the NCRTs also take these two subjects together. So when we break history, then history and culture into two parts. One part is history. For history, again we have ancient history, that was the Harappan civilization, Indus Valley civilization, etc. The second was the medieval history, that was till the Mughal era. The third was the modern history or Indian struggle for the independence. So these three parts together make up around 8 to 10 questions of history, and 8 to 10 questions of prelims are asked from these three subjects or three parts, what you can call it. The second is the culture part. So every year around 2 to 3 questions are asked from this part. So as you can see that on a whole around 13 to 14 questions are asked from history and culture, and this is a very important part of prelims. The third part is economics. This part is very tricky. You have some books, they can ask you questions from the static part, but nowadays many of the questions are coming from the current affairs also. So for this part, it is very important that you have a good grasp of the basic aspects, plus you have a good hang of current affairs also. The next part is geography. Geography can again be divided into Indian geography and second is the physical geography. So for these two parts, you have two separate books that I will be discussing later on. The number of questions that are asked from geography usually again 10 to 12. So this is also a very important part of UPSC prelims. Coming to the next part is ecology and environment. Earlier, the weightage given to ecology and environment was not very big, but nowadays the weightage have become very high, and sometimes even 15 to 16 questions are asked from ecology and environment. Though there is no clear-cut demarcation between geography and ecology and environment, so you can say as a whole, if you consider, then there is around 20 questions that can be asked from geography plus ecology and environment, plus some questions on physical geography. So as a whole, geography plus ecology and environment can make up to 25 questions also. So be very well prepared with these two parts because these are very important for your exam. Next is science and technology. Nowadays the trend has been that few questions are being asked from science and technology also, and the weightage can go up to 7 to 8 questions also. So be very careful that you cannot leave this part behind and you have to learn this part also. Mostly the questions will be asked from current affairs, but the current affairs can be from last 3 to 4 years also. So you have to be very thorough with the current affairs of science and technology for the last 3 to 4 years. Now we have already discussed what all subjects are asked in IAS prelims, but we have not discussed the current affairs part. So current affairs also makes a very important part of UPSC prelims. The questions that are asked in current affairs are from these subjects only, but when you read about those subjects, that is a static part, and this is more of the recent news that have been coming recently. So we'll go through the current affairs part one by one. So the most important thing is the newspaper. What newspaper should you read every day? Now I have seen many questions being asked that if you have many sites which give you daily dose of current affairs, why do you need to read a newspaper and waste your time on that? The important thing is that the newspaper builds a perspective and it will definitely help you in your mains exam. If you just go through the websites or maybe go through the notes of any institute, you might not be able to build a proper perspective, and that will not help you in your mains exam, but reading a newspaper will help you in your essay, will help you in building a perspective. Just go through any question paper of mains exam and you will understand. Therefore, reading a newspaper is very important, and you need to read a newspaper very thoroughly, especially the editorial part. So which newspaper should you read? I personally prefer the Hindu, as it has a very good editorial, plus it covers most of the recent news also. Now, along with that, you need to read a daily current affairs from a site like, maybe you could go for GK Today for that matter, as it is a good site for having current affairs. Second is the Press Information Bureau site. Go through this site regularly and it will definitely help you out, because you might miss some points in the Hindu, or maybe for that matter even the website from which you are preparing. So Press Information Bureau site is very important. Third is Center for Cultural Research and Training. This is very important website for preparing for culture, because any sort of happening that is being posted on this site, it is very important, and you should read that topic very thoroughly. It will help you in answering the question related to culture. Second is the static part. Now what I mean by the static part is that some of these recent things might occur or may come in the newspapers, so you need to be very thorough with these things, such as important world agency. You might see a report from World Economic Forum, you might see a report from IMF, you might see a report from World Bank. So you need to be very thorough, that if you see any such sort of a thing in the newspaper, you just go back, read about that topic thoroughly and be prepared, because UPSC will not ask you direct question. UPSC will ask you detailed analysis or maybe detailed questions, so you need to be very thorough with the topic. Second is the important government schemes. There is a tendency by us that we read only the schemes that are recent, but UPSC can even ask you schemes which had been implemented 2 years back or maybe 3 years back. But if they ask such question, it will not be baseless that they'll ask the question out of the blue, but it will definitely be asked if that particular scheme was in news. So be very careful that you do not miss any scheme that is coming in current affairs, because that scheme might not be launched at a time, but there might have been some kind of result or outcome of that scheme which had been launched 3 to 4 years back, and they might ask you about that scheme. So be very careful regarding government schemes. Third part is budget and economic survey. So you need to be very thorough with budget and economic survey, because every year 2 or 3 questions are definitely asked from this part, and the question will not be direct. So you have to read the budget and economic survey very thoroughly. Now we have already discussed what all subjects are asked in UPSC Prelims. Let us come to the books one by one. So the first subject is polity. For polity, the book on Indian polity by M. Lakshmikant is adequate to answer all the questions that are asked in the exam. But you have to read the book very thoroughly. You need to read each and every page, especially the articles on fundamental rights, the preamble, the directive principles, etc. So you need to be very thorough with the exceptions that are given in the book, and you need to read it in detail. The second thing that is very important is the newspaper. If you see any article that comes in a newspaper, just go back to the book, read about that article. If you think that there is no adequate information on that article, just open the website, read about that article, because if that article is in news, the question that can be asked in UPSC can be very detailed one. So be very careful about the article that are in the news recently. For example, recently there is an article, there is a news on Jammu and Kashmir, article 370 and 335A. So if you go to Lakshmikant, you might not find a very detailed analysis of these articles. So just go to the website, read about these articles. But otherwise, for other purposes, Indian polity by M. Lakshmikant is adequate to answer 90 to 95% questions that are asked on polity. The second and very important subject is history and culture, and it around 15 to 16 questions are asked from these two parts together. So first of all, coming to the history books, you need to read all the books of NCERT from 6th to the 12th class. This is very important as questions are directly asked from NCERTs, and you need to be very thorough with these books. The second books are that you might have heard about some people saying that you need to read the old NCERT books. So if you get those NCERT books, well and good. But what I would prefer is that Indian Ancients Past by R.S. Sharma and History of Medieval India by Satish Chandra. These two are adequate and they have more detailed information as compared to even old NCERTs. So you can go for these two books instead of old NCERTs, and these two are very good and they will cover all the ancient history and medieval history. Now coming to the modern history. So for this, normally the people say that you should go for modern history by Bipin Chandra and Indian struggle for independence by Bipin Chandra Pal. But what I prefer is that you go for modern history by Spectrum written by Mr. Raja Ahir and Indian struggle for independence by Bipin Chandra Pal. So these two will cover your modern histories, and most of the question, I mean all the question will come from these two books only. So these two books plus NCERTs will help you to answer most of the questions from history. Now coming to the culture. Indian Culture by Nitin Singhania is a very good book. Also, I have also started posting some videos on en route IAS. You can go through these videos. I have already posted some videos on classical dance and folk dance. So for dances, those two videos are adequate. If you even go through those two videos, though they are a bit longer in duration, they are around 1 hour. But if you go through those videos and make good notes, you will be able to answer most of the questions, for that matter, all the questions that are asked on dances. Similarly, I'll be posting other videos also. So do subscribe to my site, that is enrouteies.com, and do subscribe to my channel enrouteies. You will find new videos over there. For that matter, I'll be adding videos on history also on the same channel and polity also. Now coming to the CCRT site, we have already discussed in current affairs that CCRT site is very important for culture. So if you get any dance that is in news or in current affairs, just read about that dance or that topic, maybe music, painting, just read about that thing in detail. If you have adequate time, then you can go through Tamil Nadu Education State Education Board books also, but only if you have time, because if I would have been if I would prefer, I would not go through this book if cost benefit analysis is low. But if you have adequate time in your hand, you can definitely go for this book. It will definitely give you an edge over other people, because sometimes one or two questions are directly asked from this book which are not available in NCERTs, or for that matter all the other books I have already given to you. The next subject is geography. Geography can be broken into two parts. One is the Indian geography and other is the physical geography. So for Geography of India, you can read Geography of India by Majid Hussain. This book will cover most of the topics that are asked in the exam. For physical geography, you need to read G.C. Leong. G.C. Leong is a very important book, and you must go through this book very carefully and read each and every page, because every year questions are asked from this book. The third thing that is very important is NCERT 11th and 12th of geography, because these two books complement Majid Hussain and G.C. Leong. So be very thorough with these three books, and these will definitely help you in fetching good marks in geography. One more very important thing is the atlas. Every day give 10 to 15 minutes for atlas. Just have a look at the important cities. In last exam of UPSC, it was asked about the two cities, that is Bangalore and New Delhi, as to which is nearer to the Greenwich, nearer to the longitude that passes through India. So if you are not acquainted to the atlas, you might not be able to answer the question. Similarly, last year a question was asked, if you had to come from one state, I don't remember exactly which state, but if you had to come from one state from northeast to another state that was given in south, from how many states do you need to pass from? That is the minimum number of states from which you have to pass to reach from the state in northeast to the state in south. So this question is impossible to answer if you are not very well acquainted with the atlas. So do one thing, have a atlas, Oxford Atlas, just go through it every day for 15 to 20 minutes, have a look at the important cities, have a look at important rivers, have a look at the important mountain ranges, but do this thing every day. The second thing you must do is just have a huge map of the world physical map, and have a world political map on the walls of your room, and you can have another map of India on the other wall of the room. Whenever you get time or whenever you are free or get bored, just go to these maps, have a look, and try to remember as many places, as many rivers you can, because definitely two or three question are asked every year from the atlas, and these are very easy questions. If you just go through the atlas, you will be definitely able to answer these questions. Now coming to economics, this is a very tricky subject because sometimes UPSC asks questions from the static part, sometimes the weightage given to the current affairs is very high. So you need to be thorough with both the things. You need to be thorough with the static part as well as with the current affairs. So the books that you need to read is, go for Ramesh Singh, economics book by Indian Economy by Ramesh Singh. The second is Indian Economy by Sankara Ganesh Karupaya. Though only Ramesh Singh can be adequate, but I would prefer is that you go through both these books, because some of the topics that are not covered in Ramesh Singh are covered in Sankara Ganesh Karupaya, and vice versa. So go through both these books. You have to go through these two books very thoroughly, because this will actually make your basics very clear about economics. The second and important thing is NCRT of 11th and 12th, that is NCRT of economics. Go through these NCRTs very carefully. One or two questions can definitely be asked from these NCRTs directly also. The third important thing is newspaper. There is no alternative to the newspaper. Go through the economics section very carefully. Anything that is given about the economics, just note down those points. There might be some terms, just note down those terms. Just find the meaning on the net and jolt down all the terms. Try to understand all the terms, because those terms can definitely be asked in the exam. These four things can definitely help. One more important thing is the Mrunal site. You can definitely go to the Mrunal site for economics part, because for economics Mrunal site is very good. Another very important and most neglected part of UPSC prelims is ecology and environment. Most of the students tend to neglect this part and end up being a failure in an exam, because these days the weightage given to ecology and environment has gone very high, and it is very important that you prepare very well for this part. People take it for granted that okay, if you are studying polity, history, geography, then we'll be easily able to clear the exam. But if you are not thorough with ecology and environment, you cannot clear the exam. So for ecology and environment, what I would prefer is Shankar IAS Academy notes are very good. For ecology and environment, you can get these notes anywhere. Go through these notes. Go very thoroughly through these notes. Read each and every point. Read each and every page, and definitely a lot of questions can be asked from these notes itself. For example, last year red plus plus was asked. So these type of questions come every year, and you need to be very thorough with these notes. The second important book is From Crisis to Cure by S. Rajagopalan. This book is also very important because it gives you about knowledge about all the disaster that had happened, and these disasters are frequently asked in the exam. For example, due to which gas was Bhopal gas tragedy, that is methyl isocyanate. Second, Chernobyl disaster was asked. Fukushima crisis were asked. So all these crises are given in this book. So go through this book also. This book is also very important. And last but not the least, just go through the current affairs, ecology and environment section. What I would suggest is, even sometimes there are some photos of birds given in in the newspaper Hindu. Just read about. There is a caption below that photograph, that is the bird's name, or maybe the name of the lake. Just read that very carefully, because even those parts can be asked by UPSC, because UPSC can ask anything from anywhere. So be very careful that if you come across anything about ecology and environment, just jolt down the points, make notes. Now coming to science and technology, most of us are very confused as to from where we should prepare the science and technology, because it is very vast subject and anything can be asked from science and technology. So the initial reading should be from 9th and 10th NCERT science books. Apart from this, one more thing you need to prepare, that is last 4 years science and technology GK from any standard site. For that matter, I would say you can go to GK today and just take out the science and technology part and prepare it for last 4 years, because UPSC has had a tendency in the recent times that it has asked questions from last 2 years also. So just prepare for last 4 years to be on a safer side. It won't take a lot of time, but if any question is asked, you will be able to answer it. The second important thing is the current affairs, that is in recent news. If any questions from science and technology are coming, if any topics from science and technology come up in recent news, then read it very thoroughly. Do not overlook any kind of question. For example, if 108 satellite has been launched, or for that matter 31 satellite have been launched, UPSC will not ask the number of satellite. UPSC might ask the weight of the largest satellite that was launched. So you need to be very thorough, because such a question was recently asked. Be very thorough with the figures, be very thorough with the facts, and any news that comes on science and technology, just read each and everything. Do not overlook any word, because they might ask you OLED also, they might ask you anything so on nanotechnology. So be very well prepared with this part. Around 8 to 10 question can also come from this part, so this part can have a high weightage also. So with that, I have completed the list of books that you need to read. If you need any detailed analysis, I will definitely be putting out some detailed analysis on the chapters which need to be read from the NCERTs. This will help you out further, and this will help you to save your precious time which you will be wasting on chapters that are not required to be read from the NCERTs. Apart from that, I will be posting videos on culture, history and polity, but I will be posting them slowly. So just be updated with my site and with my channel, that is En route IAS, and please subscribe to my channel so that if I post any videos, it will help you out. I recently posted a video on dance forms, that is on cultural dances, and another video on folk dances. If you prepare even these two videos, you will definitely be able to answer all the questions on dances that are asked in UPSC. So all the best for our preparation. Thank you.